This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 12 of the Jumbo Think Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumbo Think Podcast. We explore the ideas and dreams behind some of the leading entrepreneurs from around the world. Along the way, we will give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big ideas and dreams and change the world around you. Today on the podcast, I'll be sharing how community and culture impact us as dreamers and people with big ideas. Our guest on Monday's episode is Romacio Fulcher. Here's a little sneak peek of Monday's episode.
My name is Romacio Fulcher. I am the CEO of my corporation, IoT International. It stands for It's Our Time. What we do is we are a home-based business, network marketing-based company that markets the latest and greatest in technology. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be successful. I never knew how big the success was going to be, Michael. I just knew that I just really wanted to be successful. The way that I find fulfillment and purpose is I'm a very purposeful man. And the thing I love about this profession of network marketing, it's not about me, it's about we. The next big goal is to literally help 75 people make over $10,000 a week here in 2018.
Make sure to come back and check out Monday's episode with Romacio Fulcher. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to make sure you know where you can find us. You can find us in all of your favorite places to listen to podcasts. Places like Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, swing on over to jumblethink.com/podcast to find links to many of the best places to connect. Don't forget to find us on your favorite places to listen to podcasts and click on that subscribe or follow button so you'll never miss another great episode of the Jumbo Think Podcast. Now let's jump into today's episode all about how community and culture impact ideas and dreams. Hey there, welcome to today's episode. My name is Michael Woodward and I am your host. Super excited about today's episode. Every couple episodes, we change it up, and instead of having a guest, I share some insights and thoughts around the world of being an idea creator, a dreamer, a maker, an innovator, an influencer in your sphere, and what that looks like. Today's topic is all about community and culture and how it impacts us on the larger scale of being a dreamer and having big ideas. In our last episode where I shared some insights, it was all about identity. We called it Finding Your Born Identity. And culture impacts identity. So if culture impacts identity, and identity is a foundation to having and being a dreamer with amazing ideas, then we really need to step back and look at community to get that foundation of how that impacts identity and the larger picture of being that dreamer, that innovator, that person with an idea. I remember a few years ago, I was going through a Myers-Briggs survey with a group of people, and the person who was putting on the event, they were sharing on how there were differences between Europeans and Americans and also people from Africa and Asia, and how when they studied, they found that Americans were very entrepreneurial compared to some of the other countries. Not that Europe or Asia or Africa doesn't have entrepreneurs, they very much do, but that because of the DNA, because of the culture of America, because of that foundation of leaving somewhere else to come to America to create a new path for their family and for themselves, that birthed this culture of creativity and entrepreneurship, and that was just, I thought, so profound, because here you could see very much how community and culture impacts us as individuals and just that very foundation of identity. In season one of our guests was from Europe, and she moved to the States for that very reason, to go take the risk to jump into something new and to push the boundaries of entrepreneurship. As I was preparing for today's episode, I was doing research and I stumbled upon this article on the Monroe College website. It comes from the Informational Management and Business Review. The article itself is called Impact of Culture on Entrepreneurial Intention. You'll be able to find a link to the full article in the episode notes, but there was this one paragraph in the introduction that stood out to me and I wanted to share it with you. For starting a new business, many factors influence entrepreneurial intention, like desirability, feasibility, and entrepreneurial experience, but it varies culture to culture and nation to nation. Within country, culture varies. Researchers are still unclear the overall impacts of culture and entrepreneurial intention. Every country has its own culture, its values, norms, and beliefs that affect the entrepreneurial intention. At some stages, the culture plays an important role in decision making. What I love about that line is it's saying, we're still unclear how culture and community really impact entrepreneurship, but we know that it does, and it plays a significant part of the entrepreneurial endeavor. Now, here's the whole thing. You may be going, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, but that statement goes beyond just entrepreneurship. It really goes into how culture impacts those with a big idea and dream. Your dream could be being a teacher or a cobbler making shoes or starting a business, but none of those is removed from the impact of culture itself. So let's step back and really define culture and community. Culture, in my handy-dandy Funkin' Wagnall standard dictionary from a billion years ago, used in high school and college, defines culture as the development and refinement of mind, morals, and or taste. And it can also be defined as the sum total of the attainments and learned behavior patterns of any specific period or people. So if culture is the development and refinement of mind, morals, and taste, and if it's the sum total of attainments and learned behavior patterns of any specific period or people, that really definitely impacts us as dreamers, as people with big ideas. That's so fundamental in that journey of creation. Community can be defined in various ways. So I'm just going to read through a couple of these definitions. Number one, a group of people living together in one locality and having common customs, interests, and other commonalities. Number two, the district in which they live. Number three, people having specific interests in common. The scientific community is an example. Number four, the public, society in general. Number five is common ownership or participation. And number six, which really stood out to me, identity or likeness. So those are simple definitions of community, and community is fundamental because it's what we see around us. It's what we experience, and it helps inform us. But even more than that, it's the measuring stick in which we live. We compare ourselves to the Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses. We look at our educational world and how it informs what we believe and why we believe what we believe. We look at cultural movements like the Civil Rights Movement or the Great Reformation or other movements of time and history and how they impacted generations in that time and even today. So many different things inform culture and community, and it can be current, but it can also be past, and it can also be the future. So community and culture are massive in the search for identity because it informs identity. So culture impacts identity. Community impacts identity, and identity lays the foundations for beliefs, which inform our behaviors that then impact our actions. If you're a dreamer, if you have big ideas, if you have dreams, the foundation of culture and community leading to identity, leading to belief systems is so fundamental to what we do and what we believe. Here's a great example of that. In the last several years, we've all heard of the Occupy Wall Street movement, and it's at its heart very pure. The rich are stealing from us. They're corrupt. They're bad. They broke the economy. And these things on the surface look really, really, really good. We've all heard the saying, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. But what is it that the rich know that the poor don't? Are they just cheating us? Are the rich just cutthroat? Are they manipulating the system? Or is there more to this? Well, the whole statement of the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer actually is a socialistic criticism of free markets. And that belief system was born out of Karl Marx and what he called the law of increasing poverty. So now we're getting into the whole conversation of wealth distribution and stealing from the rich to give to the poor. It's Robin Hood. It's something that we've all seen and believe in, that we need to take care of the least of these, and that's a biblical foundation. And so how do you reconcile all of this? I think the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad really tries to take a stab at this of mindset and how you view wealth and getting past that victim mentality of the world is out to get me, but actually pivoting. And so this is an example of how culture impacts us at an individual level and our belief systems. Another great example is this whole philosophy of free college. Well, free college sounds great, but it's coming from somewhere, and there's more to these arguments, and we're starting to believe things just because it's being said, and it's a good idea, and good ideas don't always have the truth at heart. They're sometimes based on lies, and we just need to realize that. But culture and community impact all of these different arguments, all of these different beliefs, and we need to be aware of that. In the past several years, we've also heard about groupthink, which is the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity or individual responsibility. So culture can impact us in great ways. Like I said at the beginning, where our society, the North American philosophy of entrepreneurship, which is, anyone can make it here. The American dream of if you work hard, you'll see the breakthrough. Groupthink goes against that. It says, accept the status quo, accept the norm. It's the psychology of social responsibility that says, oh, somebody else will do it. We've seen this recently where there's been mob mentalities and people have been raped or beaten or all these really negative things. And no one in a group watching it did anything because the social responsibility said, if no one else is going against the status quo, then I'm not going to come up with a creative solution to solve this problem or break the trend. So culture and community can impact us in great ways and in bad ways when it comes to having big ideas and being dreamers. So that's at the macro level. But what about the micro level? What about your immediate community? What about your friends, the people you see every day? How does that culture and community impact you? Well, you can go back way in history. It's been something we've been talking about for thousands of years. You can look in Corinthians in the Bible and it says bad company corrupts good morals. You can look at Proverbs even further back and it says he who walks with wise men becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. You can fast forward to modern times, and we have all heard that powerful statement, we're the combination of the 5 people we spend the most time with. That was said by Jim Rohn. These are all the same truths. And what it's saying is that your immediate community, the people you hang out with, influence you in massive, massive ways. So how does that apply to someone with a big idea and dream? Well, it's real simple. If you have a passion to be a luthier, a guitar maker, well, you probably want to get in your small little group, that immediate peer group, somebody that builds guitars. If you want to become an executive of a Fortune 500 or 100 company, you probably should start hanging out with executives at big businesses. If you want to become a teacher, hang out with other teachers. You get into the communities that feed your dreams and visions. And that can be at several different levels. That can be a small group or a mastermind. That could be a one-to-one mentorship. That could be in just getting into clubs or organizations or affiliations that are specific to the industry that your dream lives in, that your idea lives in. On the flip side, if you want to change something and you've got a lot of people that are bad in that area, you might want to change that group. A great example of this would be, of course, if you are struggling with alcoholism, you probably shouldn't hang out at the bar with your bar buddies. You're going to end up drinking and it's not going to help you break that addiction. If you are a drug addict, you need to get out of the community that's impacting you and influencing you to do those things. You need to get into a community that helps bring you health. So ideas and dreams can be fostered in the same way. If you have people speaking into you, into your life, who are bringing you down, not encouraging you, that are telling you how you're just going to fail, or how nothing's possible, or you don't have enough money, you don't have enough wisdom, you don't have enough influence, you probably need to get away from those people if you want to really reach the full potential of your dream and idea. So on the micro level, the people around you are pretty significant for your journey as an idea maker, as a dreamer, a person who is pursuing and making those things a reality. So being intentional about that is pretty significant. Now, I want to go one step further and look at worldview, because community and culture play such a significant role in your worldview and your biases. And in season 1, I talked a little bit about bias and how we all have one, and we need to recognize we have one. Several years ago now, I went to School of Ministry for pastoral ministry down in Pensacola, Florida, at a school of ministry called Brownsville Revival School of Ministry. Super fun time, and we had some incredible professors there. One of them was talking about this very issue, and he used this word presupposition, and he defined it as basically how everything in your life up to now has impacted your worldview. It's the past view impacting the present and future view of your life. Often you don't even know you're operating in it. And that's a dangerous place to live, because if you know your biases, you can start to operate in the benefits and drawbacks of them and live through that. But if you're making presumption based on your past experiences, your community and how that impacted you, and the culture of the world, then all of a sudden you're not being intentional about worldview. So that presupposition is pretty significant, because it sets you up for understanding your biases. And bias created by culture and community are pretty significant. I think a great example of this is micro communities within the larger populace. You think of the United States and you think we have a singular community and culture, but that's not really true in a lot of ways. There's great examples of this. One of those is if you look at any city, New York City is an example, you have micro communities within that. You have Chinatown and Little Italy, and you have the hipster portion in Brooklyn or wherever it is now. And then you go to LA and you have Koreatown, and you have the surfing community. And all of these different micro communities within the larger populace have their own worldview and bias that is cultivated and created by culture and community. Oftentimes, these micro communities will have their own lingo or language that they use to communicate. And it could be English still, but they have certain slang or terminology. And that culture, that worldview shifts how they're able to dream and have ideas. So where do we go from here? Well, that's a great question. And culture and community leave us with a lot of great things. They also leave us with some bad things, especially if you're a dreamer and you want to pursue that. Some of the good things are it lays a foundation for your life. And if you have a healthy environment, a healthy culture, a healthy community, that can lay a foundation that sets you up for success. One of the examples that comes to mind is so many of our guests in the past couple months and into last year were people who look back and they say, I'm a second or third or fourth or fifth generation entrepreneur. They grew up in this culture. They grew up in that community of entrepreneurship. And because that's a culture that they know, that has set them up with a foundation to live that lifestyle, to know what to expect, what to not expect, how to operate in the benefits and drawbacks of entrepreneurship. One of the other good things from culture and community can be the moral measuring stick in which you live by. And again, this comes from a healthy community and culture. If you have a healthy community and culture that lays down a solid moral measuring stick, you have a guiding compass for where you go through life. Do you lie? Do you cheat? Are you honest? Are you living with integrity and doing what's best for the community? The other thing that's so significant from good culture and community is that it has an amazing support system. Could be family members or friends or a church or the college you went to. That support network helps you have a foundation for success. And it's a great place to go back to when you need encouragement if you're discouraged, or wisdom and insight if you're not sure what to do next. So good culture and community can give that support system. There are bad things about culture and community. Those can be biases. The one that's so in the news right now is racial prejudice. And that can be bred from a culture or community that harbors that philosophy. The other thing that's bad is that culture and community often want you to accept the status quo, and they discourage changes or pressure against the systems that are in place. In this status quo, we begin to live a life where we're just drifting through life. We're living a mediocre life because we don't want to go against the grain. We don't want to go against the status quo. And in that, we don't ever get to reach our ideas and dream. We don't step out into the potential of what it could be because we don't want to go against the norms. We don't want to change our status. We want to be accepted in that community. It can also have a negative impact on your moral compass. If you grew up in a community or a culture in which you backstabbed, where you lied, you cheat, you stole, and that's your moral compass, that isn't a healthy moral compass. And that culture and community has birthed in you the traits of a bad moral compass. And the other thing that culture and community can do in a negative sense is create that stereotypical lemming syndrome, where you're just following along and you don't want to go against the grain. It's, again, more of that status quo, but you accept systems that could be challenged or reinvented or innovated. And that's part of being a dreamer or a big idea, is taking the risks and the step to innovate and change and push the boundaries of what you typically would do. Ultimately, one of the most significant things you can do as you grow older, as you become that entrepreneur, that big dreamer, is simply be aware and intentional about the choices you make. You make your choices, not the people around you. You make your decisions for what you want to do, and ultimately, the responsibility lies with you. When you're aware, when you're being intentional, you can make the choices to say, I know what I believe, and that is a firm foundation for the choices I make. It is the guiding compass that helps you move forward. When you know what you believe, you know what you stand against, but more importantly, what you stand for. These are the foundations that community and culture can help you with. But they're also the foundations in which sometimes you have to question what's accepted. Being a dreamer, being filled with amazing ideas is a gift. And I think every person has it deep inside them. Finding that purpose and that passion, that's what you should be doing. And as I said in episode 9 about finding your born identity, that is a foundation. But often you can step back and look at how culture and community have impacted you, so you know how you can chase those big ideas and dreams. Culture and community are powerful tools in understanding identity. It helps you know why and what you believe so that you can have a foundation for making the right decisions to move forward and launch into those big ideas and dreams. It also gives you a support network and a foundation of friends and peers to help you on that journey of discovering your big idea and dream. So where do we go from here? Well, I want to give you some practical steps you can take away from this episode. Number 1, it's always good to assess where you are. Being intentional about the decisions you make and the biases you live in will help you have a great foundation. Assess your community and culture. What are the things that you believe in? What are the things that your community and culture impacts you to do or believe? And start being intentional about, are these the things that I really want to be a part of? After you've assessed your current community, both at the micro and macro levels, start looking at that peer group of 5 people. You know, the Jim Rohn, we are the combination of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Look at those 5 people. Is there a mentor there? Are there peers that can help you? Who do you want to become? What are the things you want to move in? What are the ideas? Get people around you that will encourage that will challenge that have been where you want to go and help you on that journey. Create that peer group of other dreamers, other innovators, other influencers, other creatives, other people who have similar passions, and begin to build that group of peers and mentors to help you on that journey and guide you. Then from there, start moving into larger communities. That larger community could be a networking group. I think of Rising Tide Society and how it's a gathering place for local creatives to gather and talk about ideas and struggles and challenges. I look at BNI groups and how that can really help you and network for your business. I also think of masterminds, and a mastermind doesn't have to just be for business. It could be for, if you want to be a teacher, a mastermind to help you overcome your challenges, your failures, your successes, and celebrate the milestones and breakthroughs that you encounter. And then going even larger, looking at other social groups that might not be specific to your business or industry, but can be like-minded people. Maybe it's your church and groups within your church. Maybe it's a social club or a hobby group that you can engage with like-minded people that want to go further. Then look at how your ideas and dreams impact your block and your school and your church and your city and your town, and then into your state or province and into your nation and ultimately the world. Some people will have a vision that impacts at a very small level, and that's perfectly fine, and that should be celebrated because we need you. And some people will have a mission and purpose that impacts global initiatives, and that's needed and important. But we need to find value in those things, celebrate them together, build communities that encourage each other, that walk through the struggles, that celebrate the victories, and that move us forward into the dreams and identity, the purpose, the passions that we have. And if you're that small dreamer, you just think that the dream you have impacts your family or maybe your block, I want to encourage you, small impacts make big changes. If you impact one person, it could have a ripple effect that impacts millions. You just never know. And so don't look at the small things as failures. Look at those as doing your part and having a significance on the larger picture. As I leave you with every episode, I want to encourage you on this last thought. I believe you were created for purpose and destiny. And if you're not living up to that purpose and destiny, you're selling out for something less. Now, I'm not trying to tell you to go strive to make something happen, but just begin to create small little steps, plans to move you forward 1 inch at a time. And after a year or 2 years or 5 years, or for some dreams, a lifetime, you'll see those dreams become a reality and begin to change the world. I believe that the world needs more dreamers, more amazing ideas, more innovation, more challenges to the status quo, now more than any other time in history. Humanity is in this together. We need each other, person to person. Every one of us is significant and needs to be a part of the solution. So I encourage you, as you dream, as you have those big ideas, step out and begin to step into the purpose and destiny you have. If you need some help, we're always here to help you at JumbleThink. We would love to be a part of your journey. You can swing on over to jumblethink.com/contact. Drop us a note. Let us know what you think of this episode. Let us know what you are experiencing, the challenges, the successes, the failures, and how we can help you take that dream, take that idea, and make it a reality. So go out there today. Do something, whether it's big or small, and move that big idea and dream forward. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. I hope it's encouraged you on your journey to find your big idea and dream. If you haven't already, we would love to connect with you, and there's so many ways to do it. We can become friends on all of your favorite social channels, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. You can also subscribe to this podcast on incredible places to listen to it from your favorite devices, places like Apple Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and countless others. And as always, you can drop us a note. We'd love to be a part of your journey. Our guest on Monday's episode is Romacio Fulcher. Make sure to check that out this Monday. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this one quote from the great poet Tupac Shakur. He says, "Reality is wrong, dreams are for real." So today, I leave you with this. Go chase those dreams and make them real.
Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps. Vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.